Mangaliso Ngema, cultural activist and renowned actor. Good evening to you and thanks for joining us. Firstly, are you there and how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I can't complain, thank you very much. And I mean, as a cultural activist, I mean, South Africa finds itself in a very peculiar situation where we have this diversity and unity and the Rainbow Nation aspirations. In your view, what heritage landscape should South Africa adopt in that context?
Look, I know that, when it comes to things like statues and street names and town names and land names, it's very satisfying for us as African people to see these names being changed and removed. And I fully, relate with that. But what we forget is the contribution that was made by some of the people, and I know some of them, have done horrible things. And I feel that for cohesion to happen in this country, between races, and for this country to really progress, we have to acknowledge the contribution of for example, I become very controversial with a lot of people that I talk to, especially people that know me as a Pan-Africanist. Mm-hmm. But when they hear me say things like, let's acknowledge the contribution that was made by even white people in this country, because we must realize that not all of them were government. It was government that made decisions and came up with policies that resulted in things like apartheid and so on, and the subjugation of, like the oppression of black people.
Yeah. But Manga, let's talk about the statues, though. And I hear you that, colonial
okay, so what I'm saying
contribution,
is,
yes.
Well, if the majority of people have a feeling that a certain statue doesn't represent what we are trying to achieve as a nation because of what that person might have been involved in during their lifetime, I think it's acceptable. If things are offensive, statues are offensive to the majority of the people. But all I'm saying is that we must caution against just doing it willy-nilly, because, some of those people, like we have people right now who are contributing immensely to this country. So I'm saying some statues must definitely be removed.
Do you agree with the minister that the statues are not just innocent pieces of architecture, that they carry a very powerful symbolic message?
Yes, and when you have a background like African people in South Africa, it's very difficult to see beyond what we associate the statue with. And statues that bring pain to us must be removed, absolutely.
Mm. All right, let's take callers on 011, and I beg your pardon, we do have a new number, so 011-542-1046, 011-542-1046, and you are most welcome to give us a call. On the line, we have Mangaliso Ngema, cultural activist, and we have Seth Mazibuko, of the class of 1976. Mr. Mazibuko, good evening to you and thanks so much for joining us. In terms of the national identity, again, the struggle that we will have is to ensure that there is cohesion and not any exclusion of the minorities. But in the same breath, there's an injustice that we need to redress. So what is your response in how the local or South African heritage landscape should look like?
I'm speaking to?
It's Cindy Mabi.
Hi, it's Cindy. How are you, my sister?
I can't complain. How are you? It's been a while.
It's quite a while, I must say. I miss you.
Likewise. Okay, so, So, I mean, we have the Hector Peterson precinct. We've got the Apartheid Museum and all of that. The Charlotte Maxeke Hospital, Chris Hani Baragwanath, the Nelson Mandela statues. Is this reflective enough, in your view, of the liberation struggle and also the pain of the past?
Cindy, in your first intro, you spoke about how, for instance, some of these symbols are supposed to contribute to social cohesion, and which is also sitting right at the center of our nation building and also of our NDP. Now, I have a problem most of the time when we speak, of some of these symbols, they seem...
Mr. Mazibuko, are you still there? We have gremlins in the system, and we do apologize for that. We'll try and get our producers to ring our guest back, Seth Mazibuko of the class of 1976, helping us to identify what a African heritage landscape ought to look like in the context of a diverse culture that we find ourselves in itself, being a very commendable, it's lauded around the world in terms of the transition that South Africa was able to achieve, but nonetheless, we still need to have a national identity. Mr. Mazibuko, as you were, I believe you're back with us. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, there you are. We can hear you. Sorry, just pick up on your train of thought. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Cindy, where my problem is, it is when some of these symbols, which symbols are supposed to be uniting us, then they tend to be symbols, or they tend to be dominated by a dominating, party. Then I have a problem. I always speak of, for instance, go to KZN and see the statues of Uqetshwayo and see the statues in Umbilo Road in Durban, and go and see where there's supposed to be the history right from the ANC, PAC times and around up to June 16. Now those places are places where, crime is being committed, where people wee-wee. Now you go and see a Mandela statue in Sandton. You go and see a Mandela statue in Bloemfontein. It has got a different treatment. You go and see where there is also statues of different leaders of a particular party, but not of other parties. So my problem, it is when these symbols, sometimes they become divisive. We still are waiting to see symbols that, for instance, represent Sobukwe. We still have to see symbols that represent Steve Biko besides the one in East London. We still want to see, more of symbols that Theatre Mashinini, besides the one that is at the acre, which was at the June 16 acre.
Yeah, but the compromise that we're talking about, and I hate to break your word, Mr. Mazibuko, is also it permeates in other sectors where we talk about decolonization of education.
I'm coming to that,
yes.
My sister. I'm coming to that. The point I'm trying to make is that part of what these symbols should be doing, yes, it is to decolonize. But when you start decolonizing and again recolonizing by having a particular perspective in history, then you have a problem. Because once decolonizing, you are promoting a particular new, colonization. If you do it, speak of the history of the African people as history of the African people, and represent by symbol, by language, by and by statues and all that. Represent all of them. Don't seek to, put another one above the other, because you are then going to be depriving the country and the decolonization process of even social cohesion, speaking as African people.
Let's talk about street names, or rather fallen heroes that whom we owe our hard-fought democracy in the context of education or political awareness of why or who Charlotte Maxeke is, for example. Do you think that if that particular process was in place, there would be more reception towards the changing of some of these structures?
I agree. I agreed with students, for instance, when they spoke against decolonization in the Western Cape, when they removed roads must fall. But the point is, who was Rhodes? We should then be talking about that. How did it contribute to our oppression? And who then, after Rhodes, came in to then liberate us? But I then have a problem. If then you would say, go to what used to be called Potchefstroom Road, and have a Chris Hani Avenue or road, and have a Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, all in one, and go and have a Mandela Road and have a Mandela University. And then now why can't we get, I remember when we were talking, for instance, when we were in Soweto, when we were talking about changing the name Potchefstroom Road, One of the recommendations that were made was that Port Shepstone would be called Theatre Mashinini. There was also that it must be called Dr. Modana, but it wasn't. One person is now occupying that road in two symbols. Are we short of people in the decolonization process? Are we short of names and historical? You see, the other problem is that we only think that decolonization, it is by naming by a particular name of a person. It also, we can put a tree, we can put another symbol. I was happy when Makhado took, for instance, the name Makhado because it was different from the names that are common. Some of them could be something else. When we only think of symbols as just being names, then we fall into a trap of starting to even speak of the politics of that person.
All right, Mr. Mazibuko, we're going to have to leave it there. Seth Mazibuko from the class of 1976, and we'll get closing comments from Mangaliso Ngema, cultural activist, in the approach that has been taken by government in whether it really has the weight or desired effects, or rather, where some are saying it's wasteful expenditure that could have gone to other amenities.
Yeah, I just feel that, maybe as a nation, we are not yet at a place that I dream of seeing us, as a nation. But what I agree with the previous speaker, that the thing is that we are not focusing on building our own things. I find that we focus too much on what was done to us and so on and so forth. But, our government doesn't have to go out of its way to do the changing of names more than creating an environment where new names are created for people who achieve things. Names are named after people who built them and things like that, and so on and so forth. So let's create our own things, and let's focus on the things that we have created, build our own statues and make them overwhelm the existing ones. Yeah, you understand? That's what I believe.
Yeah, Manga, we're going to have to leave it there. Mangaliso Ngema, cultural activist and also prolific actor, joining us on the phone line in reflection to what Minister of Arts and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa, spoke about. The report is finalized. It will now be ventilated and deliberated on in Cabinet.